Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the official Colorado Sports Hall of Fame podcast. I'm Dave Plati.
And I'm Jim Saccomano, and we are your co-hosts. Between us, we have 88 years of experience working in media relations in Colorado sports. Myself with the Broncos, Dave with CU, and both of us with the Denver Bears. Remember them?
I know I sure do. Now, most of our topics will center around sports history within and around the state, leading into revealing the state's top 150 moments heading into the state's 150th birthday next August 1st. That's the date that Colorado was also admitted to the Union back in 1876. We have a select committee to select those moments, 9 of us in all, with over 250 years involved in the state of Colorado sports history.
We're planning to start that countdown the first week of January in 2026, 5 per week, with 1 per day come July for the top 10. We hope to have an occasional guest or 2 from those moments as they relive them with us. Until we start the countdown, Dave at present has isolated over 1,800 moments in state history. We'll reference many of those prior to the countdown, and also we'll recognize an event or 2 on their anniversary dates. For example, some past happenings from today, November 20th.
Well, let's go back to that date, 1954. Colorado head football coach Dal Ward told the underclassmen to dedicate the final game against Kansas State to a quintet of seniors, in particular to 4-year lettermaner Carroll Hardy, who's the only man to pinch hit for Ted Williams, by the way, and Frank Bernardi. The Buffs easily defeated the Wildcats 38-14 in Boulder, spoiling Kansas State's chance to go to the Orange Bowl in the process. Hardy and Bernardi were sure terrors to the K-State defense. Hardy rushed for 238 yards and 3 touchdowns on just 10 carries, while Bernardi picked up 113 yards and a score on only 9 tries.
And then there was November 20th, 1977. A goal line stand in the final preserved a 14-7 Denver victory at Kansas City, with the Broncos improving to 9-1 of the season. With Oakland losing 12-7 at San Diego, Denver took sole possession of the lead in the AFC West and went on to win its first ever division title. The Broncos had snapped a 7-7 tie with just 4:29 remaining on a 23-yard touchdown pass from Craig Morton to Haven Moses, which was set up by a 22-yard punt return by Rick Upchurch.
He was sure exciting to watch all those years, wasn't he?
He sure was.
Let's go back to November 20th, 1971. Adams State won the NAIA Cross Country Championship in Liberty, Missouri, edging Eastern New Mexico by 13 points. Pat Viding led the Adams State men with a 13th place individual finish. It was the first of what would be an amazing 18 national championship teams at Adams State, coached by Dr. Joe Vigil, which included 15 in cross country, 12 men and 3 women, and 3 in indoor track, 2 men and 1 female.
November 20th, 1982. Air Force came into this game against Notre Dame winless in 11 tries, but that changed this day at Falcon Stadium in Colorado Springs. Marty Louthan ran for 115 yards and 2 2-yard touchdown runs. Jody Simmons added another from 3 yards out, and Sean Pavlich made good on field goals from 42, 40, and 57 yards to lead Air Force to a 30-17 win over the 18th-ranked Irish. It clinched Air Force Academy's first winning season since 1973. Our first 6 podcasts will feature interviews with the 6 inductees selected for the 2026 class of the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame. We want to welcome our guest for today's podcast, Steve Foley. Steve is a Broncos Ring of Famer who played 11 seasons, 1976 through 86 in Denver, as the franchise's all-time interception leader. He recorded 44 picks during his career, returning those for 622 yards and 2 scores. After being drafted by the Broncos in the 8th round of the 1975 NFL Draft, he began his pro career at the World Football League's Jacksonville Express for a season. He then joined Denver, where he served as a key cog in the famed Orange Crush defense and helped the Broncos to 2 Super Bowl appearances and 4 AFC West division titles during his career. That's when Denver compiled a 105-60 record. He also racked up 877 tackles as a Bronco, 618 of which were unassisted. Steve, welcome. What does it mean for induction in Colorado Sports Hall of Fame?
Yeah, and Dave, thank you. And it's a great honor to be going in with this group. And man, it's I'm excited for it in April, and wish it was a little sooner. Can't wait there, but excited to be going in with this group.
Great. Steve, you're a New Orleans native and is one of 12 children. Does athleticism permeate throughout all or most of your siblings? Any others play collegiately or professionally?
It was actually one of 13. And yes, I had two brothers that I played college football with. One was my starting wide receiver. I was a quarterback at Tulane, and one was my starting wide receiver. And my other brother was a backup center. And I had another brother on the freshman team at that time. So there was actually four of us at Tulane at one time.
That's pretty good. 1/3 of the kids in college.
And probably the most talented was my younger brother, Rich, who was a few years younger and went to Southeastern and got a tryout with the Redskins. And Richie McKay, my coach at Denver, gave him a personal tryout, and he said, Steve, I'm going to tell you if he stinks. I said, all I want you to do is look at him, Richie. Richie was totally blunt and honest, and he worked him out, and he ran in grass on grass with cleats. He ran like a 4.5 flat, and Richie came over to me and he said, I think he's got better feet than you do, Steve. He's fast. And Richie recommended him to Red Miller at the Denver. I don't know what it was called, the Gold, maybe, that Red was coaching at after the Broncos. And anyway, he may have had the best talent. Didn't work out for him, but as far as athletic talent, he could run.
Jimmy, you're up.
What do you remember the most about Denver's famous Orange Crush defense, Steve?
Well, the thing that epitomized that defense was its cohesiveness and unity and love for one another. I remember distinctly that Dan Reeves he would meet with each player individually after the season, and he met with me that day, and he made a statement that I remember distinctly and profoundly. The reason for why we were such a good defense. And he said, I have never seen so much love among a group of men as I have seen on that defense. And I was like, that's an interesting comment from a guy that came from the Dallas Cowboys and Tom Landry as the coach. But it was evident. Barney Chavis, Reuben Carter, Lyle Alzado, Bryson Manor, and of course the four great linebackers, Swenson, Rizzo, Gradishaw, Jackson, and Louis Wright, Billy Thompson, Bernard Jackson, myself. And we had such a good unity on the field. Nobody would get away with saying anything derogatory or taking a cheap shot at a defensive player. It was all for one and one for all the time. And we took up for each other, and we had probably the best defensive coordinator. At that time, there was two real gurus. It was Bill Onsbarger and Joe Collier. And Joe Collier was the best in my mind, and came up and was so innovative and inventive with defenses that it was just incredible to play for a guy like Joe Collier. And Jim, at that time, of course, you didn't have the turnover that you got now, so the defenses could be much more complex, and he would build on it year to year with the players. And so you could build on that, and it was just a lot more complex in those days, because you could build on it. Most of the guys that I played with played 10 years together. That's unheard of. You
Yeah.
might have one guy or two guys on a team that played 10 or 11 years.
Steve, 8 members of that defense at one time or another made the Pro Bowl, which is incredible.
Oh yeah, and I mean when you look at Joe Collier's legacy, of which I'm hoping that he gets in the Ring of Fame.
Right.
And you look at the players that he produced and put together, and they weren't high draft picks. Swenson, Rizzo, free agents. These guys were free agents, and he took free agents and then he stood Carl Mecklenburg up from a defensive lineman. Simon Fletcher changed his position, stood him up from a defensive lineman. Those guys wouldn't have made it as defensive linemen, but they were incredible and Ring of Fame players. And Carl Mecklenburg, potential Hall of Famer, he just saw talent and put him in the right position to flourish. And that's a unique ability of a coach to see that and to put him in the right positions and to be so good, not just average.
I read a thing in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette about Dick LeBeau, the long Steelers who's in the Hall of Fame. And it said that in 1 year, his guys had the incredible it said, of 33 turnovers that year.
Yeah.
Joe Collier's guys, including you, averaged 35 turnovers a year for 17 years. It's astonishing, Steve.
That is astonishing.
Now, Steve, you were a quarterback in college, though. When did you switch over to defense?
In the pros. And Denver had drafted me in the 8th round, and I was hoping to get a tryout, but we had drafted in the 2nd round Mike Frankowiak. And, at that time, they were not looking for quarterbacks that could run around. And that was more of my suitability, was to run and, pick up first downs and throw. And so Mike Frankowiak, big, strong, 6'3", 220, and really throw the ball downfield. They were looking for pocket passers, and I get that. And so they tried me at corner in the World Football League, and I really liked defense. I think I was naturally suited in temperament for defense. And so anyway, they tried me there, and they stuck me at corner. I wanted to play free safety. It's a much more complementary position, having played quarterback, to be able to read the quarterbacks. But at corner, you're pretty much doing a lot of reaction. And but I got to play there, and it was a very good position to learn, and especially as you transferred to safety 4 years later, it was great to have played corner, to know what not to do and how not to leave your corners naked. When you were supposed to have the post, you better have the post. You're supposed to have half, you better have half. You can't leave them naked in that position, because corner is unforgiving, as we see every week in the new NFL.
Earlier in the podcast, before you joined us, we visited previous special moments in state history. I brought up the game at Arrowhead Stadium in 1977 when the Broncos won 14-7 after a great rundown of a punt returned by Louis Wright. A tremendous goal line stand in the final minute to secure the win. Any fond memories of that particular series?
Oh, yes. When Louis caught him, we thought he had scored. And we ran down there, and we were preparing for the extra point. And Tom Jackson goes, I think it was Tom or Randy, one of the two, said, "Hey, they're on the 1 yard line. They never scored." And we all thought that they scored. And we were running down there, and it was like, oh man, this is great on the 1 yard line. And we had a series of plays there. Randy made a stop, a couple of guys made a stop, and they didn't score. And it was an epic finish. I do remember, I don't know if it was that game, but it was at Kansas City, and Joe Collier caught on fire standing by a heater. These big blowers, and we had to put him out. We had to put out our defensive coordinator. His jacket had a big hole, and he's still coaching, though. Still had that clipboard in his pants, looking around, but a big old hole in the back of his jacket.
I remember at Seattle when I was on the sidelines for whatever reason. I don't know if it was late in the game or what, but I was on the sidelines, and Joe Collier said one word when you picked off a pass, 6, and you ran into the end zone for a touchdown.
Yeah, that was I remember that being I think it was for the division title, that game, and it was a pretty close game. And Joe had installed a defense, and I used to always get a little nervous, but since I played corner, Joe would trust me with playing corner from the safety position. So I came up, I had the slot guy, which I hated because the slot guy could run anywhere, and I'm sitting 10 yards deep in the post trying to disguise my position. But I got that slot guy man to man, and I'm nowhere near him. And if he runs a quick out, I'm dead. But Joe had said if they read blitz, they're going to throw a hitch, 5-yard hitch every time they do it when they read blitz. So he calls a blitz, and I'm thinking, here it comes, get ready. And sure enough, when he saw that receiver turned around, and I took off at a full sprint, caught her on a dead run. And that's when Joe Collier knew, because he had prepped us. That was the genius of Joe Collier. He prepped us for exactly that play. And I saw him take that 3-step drop. I saw that receiver hitch and gone and to the house.
It was
Now,
great.
if that's not it, is there another one particular player moment that stands out in your career that's the most special?
You know, it wasn't maybe a particular play, but I remember in the AFC Championship here, first one, going against the Raiders, and they ran a couple of goes and posts on me, trying to get me tired. They sent in one guy, and of course they had Cliff Branch, who was a world-class sprinter, and they had another guy that was pretty fast. And it was either 2 or 3 deep patterns on me. And I remember defensing every one. And the last one was just a jump and a tip on a post to Cliff Branch. But that, in that AFC Championship, to go to our first Super Bowl was just a magical game at Mile High Stadium. And it was cold. And it was just a memory that and you know, we watched that. We had a Orange Crush reunion recently, and Joe Collier got to come before he passed away, and we were all watching. We watched that AFC Championship, and it was interesting. Joe came up to me after that, and he goes, "Steve-O," he goes, "I didn't realize you had such a good game." And I didn't realize it, but he was like, you defensed a lot of passes in that game. And of course, they were coming after me. They weren't going to go after Louis Wright. And we were drafted in the same year. And Louis was the first shutdown corner that I played with.
He was a shut.
So I got my opportunities, and I owe that record to Louis Wright, because they came after me nonstop, and I enjoyed it. I'm like, bring it.
Not sure if you know this or not, Steve, but you started at cornerback for the Broncos in Super Bowl 11. And then against Dallas, 9 years later, you started safety in Super Bowl 21 against the Giants. You're the only NFL player to start at different positions in the Super Bowl for the same team that many seasons apart.
Well, I didn't know that until I heard that statistic from you, and you don't think about that. And but look, I love playing for the coaches that I played for, and with the players that I played with, and it was just a special time. And so, I was fortunate enough to stay fairly injury free. I missed one season, 1982, when I broke my arm in the first game of the season, hit West Chandler and fractured my forearm, and missed that whole year. But other than that, relatively, injured. You always injured, but not not too badly. I had no knee surgeries in my career, no hips, no shoulders. So I feel totally blessed
Steve,
with
what
that.
are you doing with life after football?
Well, Bob Swenson, strong side linebacker, and I kind of teamed up, and we do some land development. We still have one piece of land and maybe a building in Erie, but we got a piece of land at Dakota Village, and we've been annexing and zoning and doing some of that, and then selling it to big public builders and smaller users as well. So we've enjoyed that. It's been good to us, and it's called FS Land, Foley Swenson. Of course, he wanted the S first for Swenson, but I said, Bob, if it's SF, they're going to think it's Steve Foley Land. So let's just keep it the way it is.
Bob Swenson, the California kid.
Oh, he's great. He was a great player, and I remember Sports Illustrated doing something, I believe, as the most underrated strong side linebacker in the game of football. He was tremendous. He could easily be up on that Ring of Fame, and
yeah, he got hurt.
Yeah.
I remember that 1977 January 1 championship game, the Broncos against the Raiders. Red Miller told Swenson to blanket Dave Casper all day long, and he beat the crud out of Casper. And next year they changed the rule about being able to hit guys 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, largely of what Swenson did in the AFC title game.
Oh, they hated Bob's forearm shiver that he would hit guys with that elbow, and he was fast, and Tommy was fast. Both those outside linebackers could run into 4.5s. They were extremely fast and covering, but Casper was so, man, he used to just lean into you and do that push off, and Stabler, as accurate as he was almost impossible to shut down. But Bob did. Casper hated playing against Bob.
Dave, do you have
any? They talk now.
I'm sorry.
No, Dave Casper and Bob will talk every now and then. Bob will ask him how he's doing, but he said he hated playing against Bob.
Well, Steve, we want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in person on April 16th in downtown Denver at the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame induction dinner.
Well, I'm excited and looking forward to that. I can't wait. And so thank you again for having me on.
Congratulations again, Steve.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Dave.
Great. It's always fun reliving those memories, especially about that AFC title game, which I've heard 6-7 miles away. People were hearing the roar from Mile High Stadium as far away as Wadsworth and 6th Avenue, if you can imagine that. Our executive producer, Tim Simmons, told me that story. At any rate, each podcast we close out by highlighting one of our favorite Did You Know moments from our backgrounds with the Denver Bears, Broncos, and CU. And we also do some outside the box notes. So, Jim, why don't you lead off with your first Did You Know moment?
Well, one of the most amazing and bizarre moments, I think, in state history was the greatest, so to speak, gives Rocky a shot. July 14th, 1979, former heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali fought an 8-round exhibition match against Denver Bronco defensive lineman Lyle Alzado, who'd been a Golden Gloves guy himself. Around 20,000 fans attended the event at Mile High Stadium, which wasn't officially scored, but went all 8 rounds. Most of all thought Ali won easily. But it was bizarre, Dave. It was really bizarre. And I think one of the reasons that it led to Lyle Alzado leaving Denver was I could tell you a lot of stories that he had some personal confusion about whether to continue as a boxer or not. Even though
on that same date in Iowa, Jamie Israeli pitched a no-hitter for the Denver Bears against the Iowa Cubs.
Wow, that's pretty good.
So, my did you know moment goes with golfer C. Olam Irwin. He was on 5 U.S. Ryder Cup teams with a 13-5-2 match record. The U.S. won all 5 times. That's a 70% winning percentage behind only Sam Snead, 808, and Arnold Palmer, 719. Tom Watson also won 70% of his matches. When I was watching the Ryder Cup this year, they were saying if you win 50% of your matches, that's really doing something because you're going against the best in the world. So I think people around golf forget how good Irwin was.
He was great, and sometimes the word great is overused. In his case, it is perfect. He was great. Did you know that Champ Bailey had 8 seasons with 2 or more interceptions for Denver, but Steve Foley had 9, which was one of the big factors that I used for his induction into the Ring of Fame.
That's impressive. And here's one equally as impressive. CU place kicker Mason Crosby finished his career as CU's leading scorer with 307 points. He then went on to enjoy a 16-year career with the NFL Green Bay Packers and one so-so year with the New York Giants in the end. But he set the Packer franchise record for scoring with 1,939 points, 2,102 including postseason. He's one of just 6 players to lead his college and professional teams in scoring. And one of the others is former Denver Bronco Jason Elam. He led the Broncos with 1,870 points. And at the University of Hawaii, he scored 395.
Jason, married a Bronco cheerleader. And I remember we were having a staff meeting once, and our director of cheerleaders, we said, hey, Jason Elam's going with this cheerleader. And the director said, well, people are allowed to fall in love, aren't they? And they did, and they've got 5 kids and happily ever after, pretty much. Jason and Tammy.
And Mason married a CU cheerleader, Molly.
How about that?
So, kickers, they make out like bandits sometimes, don't they?
They do. They don't get to spend a lot of time on the field. Their jerseys don't get dirty, and they marry the cheerleaders. It's pretty good.
Well, in closing, we hope you enjoy our podcast. Don't be shy in spreading the word. We need to thank our sponsors, Pasta J's of Boulder, located at 10th and Pearl, just west of the Pearl Street Mall. Yes, the one the late Bill Walton always mentioned when he was announcing CU basketball games. And Colorado Collegiate Chronicle, which is an in-depth weekly look at college sports around the state, published weekly by Tim Simmons, who is another veteran state PR man.
And a great himself. As always, we look forward to you tuning in weekly to enjoy our reminiscing with our Colorado Sports Hall of Fame guests, as well as our trips back into the state's sports history.
See you next week.